It's probably like something maybe I could do, but you know, more refined, if you see what I mean. Or more rough even. Because I do think I was being too careful. I mean, too careful in the background. What bits do I like? I like the foreground down here. I like the skull. I don't know if I would go for quite such thick lines.
People can see.
That's very false. I mean, you have to.
And then here, going close. I mean, usually Charles's work's very flat, but this is a different thing.
Well, you see, the drawing starts off exactly the same, pencil drawing. The fact that basically the different areas have got a similar colour, basic colour. Normally it's dead flat. Here there's variance, slight variance on the colour, so where that would be green, and I would probably pick a green to make that face like maybe this green.
Yeah.
What's happened is it's gone lighter and darker greens. The same with the cat. I'd probably pick a particular, like that's maybe there, around there, I'd pick that colour. So, but here I've got some of the light in, which I quite like. I mean, I'm not quite so. The problem with painting like this, in this way, is that you kind of have lots of agitated brush marks contained within a zone. And it's almost like a bit false in a way, I think. I mean, I think it should spill out, maybe.
The Charles Thomson way is to contain it within a figure.
Well, basically it's what I'd normally do, except I have stopped before I would go the whole hog of mixing it all up so it's exactly the same all over. So I suppose actually what you're seeing is more of the process that goes into making the painting, because normally I would go through mixing the different colours before I got to that final colour which I'm going to choose, and that's the one that comes out of consideration. But here you're seeing what goes into making that final considered colour. So the question is, do you show people the process, do you show people what you're going through, or do you just say this is what I've arrived at? And you might even say the differences between the two approaches is the difference between Romanticism and Classicism. Between, you know, going back to the 19th century, between Delacroix and Degas. And Delacroix would much more show the brush marks, the passion or the feeling, and with, I don't mean Degas, I mean Delacroix and Ingres. With Ingres, there's this wonderful portraits in the National Gallery, and everything is like porcelain, it's smooth, perfectly done. That's the end result of something. But you know, do we show people the end result, or do we show them what we're going through on the way to the end result? I don't know, it's an interesting thing. I think I might try some more like this. It's more like my drawing, I must say. And I've always wanted to find a way of painting that corresponds more to the drawing. Which isn't, so it's rather than a painting which is carefully constructed, one which shows more of the way I'm engaged with doing it, what I feel about it. Because I think to compose a painting where everything is perfect, almost as if it's been printed, you kind of have to leave yourself out of it to a large extent. It becomes the process of doing it, the technique of doing it. Where again here there is a technique of doing it also, but there's more of the, if you put on a flat colour, you can tell at the end of the day what the person feels about it. But I think putting on this different colour, you're seeing what they feel about it while they're in motion. Of course your work is very much like that. And the other extreme we've got Paul Harvey.
Yeah.
My work has never been quite as much finesse as Paul Harvey. Well, actually that's not true, it possibly has been at times, but it tends to deviate slightly because, you know, his line will follow the subject the person or the object is depicting, whereas my line has always varied from that and been expressive or expressionist. The line, you know, it's distorted, if you want to use that word, although that sort of has negative connotations. Distortion, that's kind of bad, and I don't necessarily want it to come across as distortion equals bad. Distortion can just be expressive or feeling or emotional. So I suppose this is going one step further on. I mean, there's a certain vigour about this, I must say. You know, a certain kind of passion, which perhaps my work wouldn't normally have.
I think it does, but I think it's just...
I mean, has it got more of my spirit and energy in it? Because to me there's always a balance between the material, the emotional and the spiritual. You know, the material is just the observation of the subject. You know, it's a glass, a jar, it's a skull, it's a cat, or whatever, a mask. That's the material aspect. Now the emotional aspect is, I suppose, the line or the brush marks is showing you being engaged emotionally and possibly also physically. So it's kind of transitional stage between the physical and the emotional. And to me the spiritual is the colour, the heightened colour. So what's the... and I want to try and get a balance between those three. The question is, you know, where is the balance? Where is the balance, the centre, where you integrate those three? Now, if you go too far into just the abstract part, you've lost the material altogether. It becomes detached. I don't think that's a problem, though. Certainly, you know, I'm engaged with the material. I think the trade-off is between the emotional and the spiritual. The spiritual is non-emotional, it's detached, it's impersonal. It's the bigger, the collective, the historic, the panorama of life, of history, the place where we fit into something bigger, if you like. The principles, the laws of life, of ethics, and so on. It's an impersonal thing, and to a certain extent, you know, you can see that in the work I've been doing, because the flat colour has that impersonal. But does it have enough emotional? Do you feel you're engaged enough with emotional? I think some people perhaps don't feel they are with my work. Perhaps there's not enough emotion. I've always said that still waters run deep, and the emotion's there, but it's kind of a deep emotion that comes through. Perhaps one should make the emotion a little bit more apparent. I think one thing that's I'm getting from this, and of course, I mean, I've only just done it, so it's a bit difficult to evaluate it, is there's a kind of struggle, if you like. There's a surging emotion that's being contained. There's power that's threatening to dissipate the boundaries, to overwhelm things, but it's not. It's being very strongly contained, so it's like very heightened. It's almost like the ante is being upped. The experience, the consciousness is being ratcheted up a bit. Whereas normally I would show the containment is kind of complete.
Yeah.
There's no danger that there's going to be any rupture of the boundaries. Here you can really feel the things struggling with each other. So what I'm saying is, can I actually show the power of emotion, and which is more of a dynamic, let's say, and the power of the spirit, which is more of a structural thing? Can I show them both at the same time? Can I show kind of classicism and romanticism? Can I show like energy and form, you know, force and form, energy and structure? Can I show them both at the same time? You know, do you get two for the price of one? I mean, I would say, of course, this is definitely a kind of preliminary painting. You know, it's one of those things where you try something out, you may have made a breakthrough, or you may have made a complete cock-up and a mistake. Yeah. You may be going down a cul-de-sac, or you may suddenly be taking the first step on the highway and going and found a new highway to go down, or you may have taken the first step and you're going to come to a dead end. And you know, it's too soon to really evaluate, apart from the fact that I have found something a bit exciting and I would like to have another go. I'm not right tonight because I put quite a bit into that, but I want to And I like the fact I could do a big canvas quite quickly, and that's important to me. Say to me, you know, I would say I want the three worlds, three levels to meet. Material, emotional, spiritual. I want them to meet, I want to show them to people, I want people to be able to relate. And I think perhaps something that some people can't relate to so much is the emotional. That has been something that's been said. I think people might get that a bit wrong about the emotional not being there, but if I can make it more apparent so it's easier to get, then I presume that would be quite a good thing. As you pointed out, it's up to the artist. Because whatever you do, some people are going to like it, some people aren't. But other people can help you. I think they can reflect back like mirrors, perhaps part of yourself that you're not seeing properly. I mean, I think people often do that when someone's in trouble and they're confused, a friend comes along and says da-da-da. And what they're actually doing is helping that person to focus on what they need inside themselves, find that part inside themselves.
Yeah.
It's there. If the person was calmer, they'd be able to see it. But perhaps they're not. They're agitated and something's getting in the way, so the friend acts as a mirror to the kind of truth inside that person. So it's kind of, I think it's very good to get feedback. I mean, I don't know if it's never really happened that everybody's said what you do is crap. That's never really happened. Some people might have said they don't like it or whatever, or it's a cartoon style. Usually some of the critics in the national press, Matthew Collins, Rachel Campbell, Johnson, Adrian Salter, write it all off, fine. Yeah. But that's not really worth taking any notice of. I'm talking about people that are informed, that understand art, or at least the art we're doing. And it's interesting what they say. Now, it may well be, I don't know, Paul Harvey might look at this and say, you know, he much preferred my other stuff, because it's kind of, his stuff is more similar to my other stuff. You might look at this and say, yeah, I think I prefer this. I said one good thing about this was it would make my work even more different to Paul Harvey's. but that's not necessary to do that.
No.
So I don't know, I've been painting the way I paint now, basically, more or less, since I started in 1997. Then there was a gap of 14 years and I was painting this way. I developed this way of painting at college, last year of college, 1978. I kind of discovered this, but then it was still a bit more painterly actually. I would sort of try to put in some textures, not perhaps how the edge of the line wouldn't be perfect, or if I had a paint like Viridian Green that was semi-transparent, I would let that show to give a slightly different surface. So I was trying to get that even then, and I would put brush marks on which were intended as brush marks, but because the paint was fairly flat and the same colour, you wouldn't really see the brush marks, which is weird, but I was doing it physically, but not actually, it wasn't registering. And I suppose here what I've done is let it register fully. But if you look at some of my older stuff, you'll see that some of them, they're not sort of perfect. Yeah, that's pretty ugly there, that's not, you know...
Part of the experimentation, I guess.
Yeah, I would want to do that a bit better. I think by the time I came to the cat's ears it was sort of more defined. But I mean, it's not like I'm going to throw it away, it's not rubbish, it's just that next time I want to, you know, it works, I'm going to keep it like that. If it didn't work, you know, I know I can't define that bottle top anymore, because if I do then it's not going to work, it's going to be so thick and ugly and disproportionate to everything else, so I will leave it like that and accept it like that. I mean, what I like about it as well is I've got some of the same, you know, curves that I've got when I do it more precisely. They're still there. That sort of feeling is there. It's growing on me.
Good.
It's growing on me.
Yeah.
I can see, you know, potential. I'm looking at it and thinking, yeah, this is something I'd like to do a bit more of, you know, in the next one or whatever. I'm still not quite sure whether I should be putting the black on when it's dry, or I'm very pleased with the black actually, because I thought it was going to be more of a mess than it is.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased with that, because there's a little bit of, occasionally you get something in it which is quite nice, you know, just here and there. I can't even see whether that's reflection or a bit
No,
of,
that's a bit of canvas showing, or a bit of yellow showing.
yeah. So, you know, and there's a bit of there. So I like the fact it's not perfect, because again you can almost like see the movement of the brush.
That's it. Yeah.
And you can see that it's come down there and not quite joined up, and it's you can see it being dragged around. So I'm interested in ambiguity in paintings, like the Sirota painting. I know people regard it as a straightforward satire against Sirota, and that. But actually, to me, it's not. It's completely ambiguous. It could be satirising him. It could be actually posing a genuine question as to whether they are Hemin's originals, and that is a valid thing. It could be that he's actually laughing at us, laughing at him. It could be that he knows full well this is a kind of joke question, even though it's one he's got to ask. So actually there's probably about 6 different interpretations of that I think you could make equally validly. And it's not, for me it was a genuine question. I was still wondering in some part of my mind, is this valid? Is this kind of art valid? So it was posing a genuine, it was posing a question for me at the time when I did it. There we are, Confessions of Charles. And this one, you know, again, it's ambiguity, which I kind of like. I mean, I like the fact that, I mean, I'm fascinated by what people interpret as something. You only need a small number of clues, and you have generated a reality from that art, those small clues. Poetry is a classic example, which I did for years. You choose the right words and it sparks off a lot of associations. So I suppose in that way I would like to do the same thing with art as well. I'd like to, I suppose I have to confess, I am a bit of a minimalist. I do try to do more complex paintings, and I always seem to have to stop short because I think it's going to spoil it, and it's going to sort of disrupt the essential image that I've got. So I suppose you can't have both. You can't both, you know, have a strong, bold image and a very, very complexly worked out one with lots of details. You can't. You've got to have one or the other. Or sometimes I do a mixture where there's some little part of it which is more detailed. I think, you know, Paul Harvey and a lot of his, there's a lot of detail, a lot of ornateness, and that's wonderful. But I've always had to go the other way. You know, how can I get an urgent message across? I always feel, for me, yes, I've got a strong, urgent message. So there you are, you're in a building and it's in flames. What do? Do you start talking about the crimson conflagration that twists its arms around the bricks? Or do you say there's bloody fire? Get out.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel usually. I want to say something, I want to say it strongly. And I suppose because for me conceptual art has taken away so much directness and meaning from people, and it's been so encumbered with theory that's actually very impenetrable, and to me distances people from the art. It's meant to explain it. It's a barrier. It doesn't engage people with the art. It engages them with a level of theory. I want to engage people with the art. So I suppose that's another reason why I feel an urgency. Let's get back to art that says something. You can't mistake what it says. It's strong, it's bold, it's meaningful. You know, somebody wants to say something. And that's what I want to do. I want to say something with this. I want to say these things are there. There's this bottle, there's this mask, kind of skull, there's this cat, and they're kind of all animated by the same energy, the same kind of lines that curve round them and change their shapes. And I think with Stuckism we're almost like at the beginning of something.
Yeah.
We're at the end of one thing, which is modernism, and we're considering modernism, we're deciding what to take from that, what to discard. what's of use to us now, and what to take forward, what to develop. But it's also a starting point, because we are actually taking the things forward. Modernism was inventing something. We're now deciding what of that to make use of for perhaps a different purpose even, or perhaps a better, or higher, or more spiritual purpose than they had in the first place. So if you like, I mean, Cubism, for example, Picasso, I think, was mainly concerned with the language of Cubism when he did it. He would have a still life, he would have a person, but he was very much looking at the language, because he was inventing it, you know, how the grammar fitted together. Well, someone like Eamon Everall can come along and say, well, that's the language, you've invented it, thank you very much. I want to show something with it. I want to show the emotion of a mother and child. Now, I don't think that came into Picasso's Cubism. So Eamon Everall is doing something different. It's a starting point of, let's use these languages and we can show they can be used for something different, and possibly after us people will say yes, and we can use them for something different and develop that further, or maybe it will just all degenerate.
So your new painting jars?
Yeah.
Not so flat one.
No. I've offered to swap it for one of my old flat ones if you want.
No.
What?
No.
No.
I'm looking at.
What do you want? You can have that, or you can have one of the old flat ones. What are you going to choose?
So what are you going to call it?
No, what are you going to choose? That or the old flat one? Okay, what is it? What do you want? You can have. What do you want? That or one of the old flat ones? The choice is yours.
Don't know.
No. It's only a theoretical choice.
So why is that smudge there?
Where?
That.
That's my signature.
Oh yeah, CT. Yeah. So it's a smudge.
Mr. Cat pooped.
So what do you think, darling? Would you rather have that one or an old, one of his old sort of more tidy ones?
This one quite different actually. I
That's
quite
not
like
a
it.
question,
No.
It means, are you...
A corn head.
Oh, I know. I want to show Shelley something. I want to show her the Manet painting that I saw in the... Are you going to go and see the Manet show at the Royal Academy?
I didn't know there was one.
Yes, there is. Are you a member?
What one? No.
No, how can we get? Can I search?
Russell. And this is Charles.
Well, that's kind of finished. That's probably the quickest paint I've ever done in my life, per square inch. Dunno, what do you think? I think it might be better if I actually, if the background was even rawer, you know, like the foreground. That might be, because the background looks a bit smooth, doesn't it?
Yeah, but again, I
mean, I think it like works quite well with round here when there's a lot more variety, and you can see the brush marks.
There is variety in the back. That's lighter, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I know it's lighter,
light
but it's
there.
smooth. Like here, it's
Right.
obvious. You know,
Yeah.
you've got the agitation, and I think, and here I like this because it's more sudden transition. You know, it's a bit
Yeah.
darker, and suddenly you get the sudden. It's not a smooth blending like the background's like smooth, like it's been photoshopped or something. I think, I mean, I cocked that up a bit. That isn't a very nice shape round there, but I daren't touch it because it will get even.
It will, yeah, get
thicker,
blobbed out.
and
Yeah.
it's as blobbed as it is, but I can just sort of away with it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I got better at putting the shapes on, you know, the black on. Then I've got to be a bit careful. I know where to do it without spoiling it.
Well, that's why I don't sign on the front.
But this one, you know, I feel like I want to. I don't know why. C T. There we are. A new signature for a new way of painting.
Brilliant.
You saw it here first.